Years ago, when I got into this business, at a local TV station, I had a boss. And a boss said, I'm pretty good at what I do, and we're going to grow. But we're going to double the speed of our growth by weakening our competition. And he said, you know, two jets going at each other is more explosive than a jet hitting something that's stationary. And his point was, our growth will be much faster if our rivals make big mistakes. And so we went out and stole a couple of their best people, and 2 years later, a 4-year growth project in 2 years, we were number one in local news. And I've never forgotten that the erosion of a rival is a very key component to your growth. The New England Patriots, according to Vegas odds makers, are just about as good as the team that was undefeated with Randy Moss. And I'm going to make the argument that they'll even be more dominant this year than that team, and that team was dominant. Because it's an offensive-driven league, and I don't think Brady's ever had this many weapons. And I love Randy Moss. But part of why the Patriots will be dominant, look at the erosion of the AFC. I'm going to go 10 years ago in the AFC. Peyton Manning was in his prime. Big Ben was in his prime. Phillip Rivers, San Diego won the division in his prime. Carson Palmer, Cincinnati in his prime. Even teams like Cleveland won 10 games. Jacksonville won 11. Now, 10 years later, Peyton Manning's retired. Big Ben has fallen off a cliff. Phillip Rivers franchise in flux. Andrew Luck is out. Jets and Bills actively tanking. Now the second best team in New England's division, Miami, due to the hurricane, will have no bye week, and they're using a fill-in quarterback. I do like David Carr, but the Raiders have no defense. And I do like Marcus Mariota, but let's be honest, he's good and still growing. When the businesses you oppose are quickly eroding as you grow, it accelerates your growth. Here's an example of what has happened to the AFC. So Sunday, the season really begins, right? And you have the 1 o'clock Eastern window and the 4 o'clock window, and then NBC's got the night game. Look at the games we have. We're offering you the Eagles in Washington. Viable rosters, early window. Seattle, Green Bay, Super Bowl potential teams. NBC's got the Giants at Dallas, marquee teams. You know the late afternoon game on CBS? This is the game they're airing. CBS's late game's the biggie, right? It's Scott Tolzien against Jared Goff. Colts against Rams. Colts against Rams. Indy. Oh, they've got the Jets at the Bills. Bortles at Tom Savage. Boring Joe Flacco against beige Andy Dalton. New England and Pittsburgh, to me, feel at a totally different level as complete football teams, and I think they're only partially deserving of credit. There's been utter erosion in the AFC. Brady's won 14 of the last 15 games he's played. And this morning on First Things First, Chris Carter was talking about Brandon Cooks, for instance, coming from New Orleans over to New England, and what you're going to see now out of Cooks, who I believe is going to pop for somewhere between 1,200 and 1,500 yards for the Patriots.
I guarantee you, Bill Belichick, he pulled everything that Brandon Cook does well because he knows Sean Payton. He put it on a reel, and he gave it to Tom Brady. Yeah. Tom Brady watched the reel with Belichick, an offensive coordinator, and they said, this is what this guy does. Watch tonight. They'll do things with Brandon Cook that they haven't done with wide receivers since who? Randy Moss.
I think New England and Pittsburgh end up facing one another. I think Tennessee and Oakland are interesting, but they're not there yet. Raiders' defense, back end is weak. And frankly, I don't trust the history of Tennessee in big spots, and I think Marcus Mariota, though really talented, is still growing. I want to segue to this. Bill Belichick said he's not concerned about thousands of Roger Goodell clown towels being prepared for tonight. 70,000 towels will be out there depicting the commissioner's face bearing a red clown nose outside of Thursday's game. And Roger Goodell will be there, and he'll be booed, obviously. And because, the Patriots, of course, are being picked on by the NFL. Of course they are. You know what Boston's become? And I generally like Boston teams. But Boston's become the rich kid that complains the world is out to get him. Yeah, the world's just out to get Boston. The Sox have 3 titles in 13 years. The Patriots are the king of the most watched sport. 7 Super Bowl trips, 5 rings. Bruins won a cup in 2011. Celtics won a title in 2008 and should dominate the Eastern Conference for the next 10 years. That's just how Boston is. Even their comedians, Dennis Leary and Bill Burr, seem pissed. Ben Affleck's won multiple Oscars. Have you ever seen him smile? Ever listen to sports radio in Boston? It has 2 gears, angry and angrier. I lived between New York and Boston. I love New Yorkers. Yeah, they're in a hurry. Yeah, New Yorkers are sort of blunt, but they're funny. They're passionate. They love their city. They love outsiders. My first trip into New York City, I was completely lost. The city overwhelmed me. Had to stop twice for directions. And people on their phone put it aside, looked at me as I rolled down my mirror, and gave me directions. Interrupted a phone call. I was that big of an idiot to ask somebody on the phone. I tolerated New Englanders. My wife is Irish, hated Boston. We both love New York. See, Boston's never going to be as cool as New York, or as good-looking, or as rich, or as relevant, or as powerful. So Boston has a chip on its shoulder. There has never been a sports city that has had a 10 to 15-year run like the city of Boston has. This is unbelievable. They have the best NBA franchise in terms of young talent and a tremendous future, a top-shelf NHL team, the reigning NFL dynasty. And is there a consistently better team in baseball right now than the Boston Red Sox, who I think, along with Cleveland and the Dodgers, look like the surest bets for the World Series? Yet the world is against Boston in all their teams. Yeah, Deflategate, star quarterback threw away a phone when they'd had a history of the Tuck Rule and Spygate, and they are the number 1 brand outside of the Cowboys in the league. The league was concerned about sort of the fabric of the league being undone a little bit with New England and Belichick, the league's envelope pushers. Spygate, ring a bell. Come on, Boston, get over yourselves. God, you've even got a nice little island out there in the summer called Nantucket. You don't even have
not
to.
Not everyone can go to that island.
Well,
it's expensive.
To ferry. Take a ferry, spend the day, and eat ice cream. That's not expensive.
The ferry's expensive.
Martha's Vineyard, Nantucket, the Cape Cod. You've got all these wonderful things, tremendous history, those marvelous duck boats. Wah, the world's against us. You'd think you were Cincinnati or something. Lord.
It's not that the world is against us, and you're talking about this when it comes to sports. They're just angry that everyone constantly is accusing them of cheating because the only way they could be so good must be because they cheat.
Well, there is a history.
There's a history everywhere of cheating. Boston just continues to win.
And cheat. Okay. It's fine with me.
They just cheat better then.
Well, that is a skill. I will certainly give you credit for that. Hi, everybody, and thanks for watching. We want you to subscribe here, to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from the herd, or go watch a few segments from the newest show on FS1, First Things First, with Chris Carter and Nick Wright.